Good evening, C3 parents, and welcome back. And today we are kicking off week 4. It has been an interesting and busy week. Let's roll that intro and let's get started. Welcome back. All right, so it has been quite a couple of weeks where we have been focusing on parenting the parent. We understand why we need to do it. We understand that we need to build and heal and understand how we view children, and understand that we view children through the lens of what we were taught as a child, what the space a child should occupy should look like. Today we're going to talk about that sticky bit, the bit that very few people are willing to admit. When we are working through this healing process of parenting the parent, and when we are looking at all these amazing things that we're doing to change, to break the cycle, oftentimes it comes at a price. Oftentimes it comes at an emotional price for ourselves. We often find that we are emotionally negatively affected by the happenings, and mostly because we were never really allowed to feel the things we feel growing up as a child. And it brings in confrontation, it brings in conflict, it almost brings in a conflicting situation where you know this and this and this and this was wrong, and you don't want to continue doing that. But also, if I admit that this and this and this and this was wrong, it means that there were certain things that happened in my childhood that my parents may have done or other adults may have done that has not been healthy for my development. And it doesn't make that person a bad person. There's so many, like, we all make mistakes. Our kids are going to go through the parent process, and they're going to feel hurt, and they're going to go through, have to heal through the mistakes we've made. It doesn't mean that if we pinpoint where a hurt or where certain bits of pain come from, that we need to, like, be angry at that adult and cut them out of our lives if they're still part of our lives, or like fight with them, or you don't have to. But we can't start healing if we don't acknowledge that exists. That dichotomy of a good adult, a good parent, a good carer also have flaws. Because if we can make peace with the flaws of those who raised us, we can make peace with the flaws that we will have. And that by the time that our children are grown and they start the parent process, and they start healing and they start learning about things, that when they start confronting us, that we won't go on the defensive or justification, but that we will actually go and acknowledge and say, I own it and I'm sorry. Yes, that decision that I made was wrong. Parents do the best job they know how to do with the information that they have at that particular point in time. Therefore, we are fallible. We are going to make mistakes. We are not always going to hit the mark. Finding that ability to have that grace and that forgiveness for your elders comes with the whole healing and the parenting the parent bit. But it hurts so deep, and it makes us often so angry, and it cuts, and sometimes it even breaks. Other times, some of that hurt that we are busy healing, that we are busy working through, reach a point where we can heal and we can find peace and we can have grace and we can have compassion and we can embrace the whole idea that this person who raised me, this person that had this big influence on my life and who I am as a human being, and all the stuff that I'm learning from and growing from. Sorry, I just quickly, that all the stuff that I'm growing from and learning from and dealing with, if it reaches a point where I need to confront that person, or where I need to go and say, hey, dude, man, dude, yes, this was wrong, and this hurts, and this was tough on me. And you do not get met with compassion and understanding and ownership, but rather justification and defensiveness, that's going to hurt. And you might end up having to make a choice whether how many boundaries do you need to put in place to protect this healing process, to let this wound heal and let the scar find its shape. Because a scar tells a story. A scar isn't all ugliness. It tells a story, and we can love our scars because the scars are part of what shaped us. But we still have a choice of how close we want that person that created that scar in our lives. Sometimes it means putting up a boundary. Sometimes it means just having very serious conversations, holding people to account and expecting accountability. A lot of times it means also having grace and understanding. And here's one of the things that so many people struggle with. I can hold someone accountable, and while I'm holding them accountable, I can have grace for their lived experience, their scars, their journey as a human being. That what shaped them. I can look at their scars. I can look at their humanity, and I can find forgiveness in my heart. I can find grace. I can understand where someone's coming from. But understanding does not necessarily mean approval, forgiveness, and remaining. I can forgive someone and still not have a relationship with them. I can forgive someone and have specific boundaries that protects me. I can forgive someone, I can have grace for someone, I can respect someone and still stand my ground. Just because that person used to be in a position of power over me as a human being does not mean that I owe them the difference of that power position for the rest of my life. I don't. As you grow into your own, as you grow in this healing process, as you grow as this person that's building the next generation, as you're going through all of that, you are allowed to choose. You're worth it. You are worth it on your own as your own value, to not have to compromise and allow that person to come stick their fingers the whole time in the wound and preventing it from healing, preventing it from shaping, preventing you from growing. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to hold firm to your boundaries. And here's the interesting thing. You don't have to justify your boundaries to that person. You don't have to qualify it. You don't even have to explain why it's there. The boundary is there. If you feel the need to explain, ask why. If the reason you want to explain is because that a part of you feels like if someone understands the rules, easier for them to abide by it, and that's the only reason you want to explain, go ahead and explain. But if the reason you want to explain is because you feel guilty for putting in a boundary that protects you from this person, that boundary has to stay. That boundary deserves to be there, because you know what? You will not feel guilty about that boundary to the degree where you feel that you have to justify that boundary to the person who you're giving that boundary to, if that person has not ignored, overstepped, and disregarded your boundaries in the past to such an extent that it made you feel powerless. If you keep on feeling powerless in that relationship that you're having with a person, that relationship is not healthy for you. And you're going to have to find that boundary. You're going to have to find that distance. And the reality is, once you start doing it, you'll have successes. And you'll have times that it's just not going to work. Times where you give in because of the whole power dynamic. But every single time that you experience success, it becomes easier. Yes, the times that it doesn't go that well, have grace for yourself. It's a new thing. You're learning to walk. You're learning to walk in your own independent agency, which means you're going to stumble, you're going to fall, and it's going to take time for you to finally fully be able to implement and maintain that boundary. And stop feeling guilty or that you failed if it goes awry. It takes practice to find your voice and your agency, especially if you grew up in a space where your agency and your voice was completely washed away and completely suppressed. And it can take years. And it hurts. Because every time that you stand up and put down the boundary and stand by the boundary, it hurts because you doubt yourself. And you struggle with it. And the gaslighting and the manipulation that comes, in floods towards you will come again. And it keeps on coming. Keep it. Believe that the boundary that you've put in there is a boundary that you're worthy of having, that you deserve to have. And it becomes easier. You might in the beginning put boundaries in place and it's boundaries that you feel strong boundaries, but that person keeps on violating them, even though you keep them and you hold them, and it causes conflict. That might mean that you might have to move to a space where you go no contact. No contact also doesn't have to be for the rest of your life. But no contact is usually a decision someone makes, especially a child towards a parent makes, when everything else that the child has tried has failed, and that the adult or the parent in that power dynamic refuses to hear, to listen, to grow, and to actually accept accountability. When that happens, when that mindset remains of a parent that they own a child and that a child owes them, then a boundary will feel like an insult to that parent, and that parent will continue to violate that boundary. And then for the sake of yourself and your family, you might have to go no contact. And it hurts. It sucks. Because now you're mourning two things. You're mourning the parent that you always hoped there would be, a relationship that you always dreamed that you could have but you never had. And you are mourning the fact that whoever this person is, they are no longer there. Human beings have a very weird way of doing things. We've got this thing in our head where if we have been indoctrinated and patterned into a certain way of life, even if breaking out of this pattern and moving over to a healthier kind of life, because change, especially such a drastic and dramatic change, is scary. And we are trained, we are like drilled into, for the safety of the tribe and for the safety of humanity. We start a thing, we do a thing, we do it as a generations because the generations before us did it, and because they did it before us, they survived, therefore we can live. It's like a survival thing. And now we're breaking away from that thing that's patterned into our brain as a survival thing. And now you're breaking away from it, and it's scary and it hurts, and you are basically saying goodbye to a tribe that has been so integral to your identity as a human being traversing this world that you even have to mourn the loss of that community. Because many a time, the moment we start putting in boundaries, the moment we start healing and we start parenting the parent and we start confronting these things, especially if you have a parent that doesn't understand or doesn't want to understand or just feels absolutely insulted and attacked when you're working through this, chances are the indoctrination of you're not allowed to break free is so entrenched that it feels like a complete and utter loss. And chances are that you would just say goodbye to that specific adult that was part of your life, but maybe quite a collective amount of people that was connected to this person, and either they badmouth you or the other people, the only reason they were part of your life is because of this specific person. And it hurts. So you're mourning not having had the parent or the person that you needed. And you're mourning the loss of the devil you know. And that makes it so much more harder in this whole parenting the parent journey to heal, because part of healing is acknowledging that sometimes there needs to not always, but sometimes there's boundaries that needs to come in, and sometimes that boundaries might put you further away from your biological people that raised you or the people that played a significant and important part in your growing up journey. This is the tough part of the work. This is the tough part and the hurtful part, and the part that we're going to be quite frank and honest about in the months to come. So throughout everything that's going on, I want to tell you that you are worth healing. You are completely worth finding your joy, finding your own value, and being able not just to find your own agency, but to stand in your own agency and become healthy so that you can be the best parent possible for your own kids. You are worthy of the happiness that comes with that. You're absolutely worth it. And on that note is where I'm going to end tonight's loaded conversation. If you're in the replay crew and you made it to here, please #replay, hit the like button, follow, subscribe, do what you need to do, share it. If this video made an impact for you, please share it with your friends or with people that you feel could find value in this. And thank you for the continued support. The Patreon, I know I don't have a Patreon link currently in the description below. I'll put it in the description below. Come join us in the Patreon community. We are not just doing Parenting the Parent this month. We are doing it the rest of the year. So come grow, come learn, come have a space where you're allowed to have your agency and where you're allowed to have your worth, and where we celebrate you every step of your parenting journey. And you also have a parenting coach in your pocket. Stay safe. I'll see you guys next week. Next week, we're done. We are almost done. Next week will be the last live on YouTube regarding Parenting the Parent. So if you want to continue this parenting the parent journey with us, Patreon will be the space. And there will be other housekeeping stuff that comes out in the next couple of weeks. Stay safe. I love you guys, and I'm so proud of you. If no one has told you today that they love you and that they're proud of you, just know that I am so proud of you, and I love every step of joy, every step of progress that you make. I celebrate with you. Stay safe, and I'll see you next week. Cheers.